This podcast is sponsored by Chimby, the career advice search engine. Go to chimby.com to search the web's best collection of career advice. That's CHIMBY.com. Welcome to Secrets of the Job Hunt, everyone. This is the podcast edition. I'm your host, Chris Russell. My guest today is Dana Mattioli. She is an editorial assistant for CareerJournal.com, and she recently wrote an article about how to downplay job hopping on your resume, and she's going to join us now and talk about that. Welcome, Dana.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, so job hopping is something that many employers look down upon, but your recent article on this subject has some great tips to overcome this job search problem. My first question is job hopping becoming more acceptable now?
It's becoming more acceptable, especially in certain industries like the tech industry. It might be more expected.
Okay.
There's still a stigma against it. Recruiters are worried about putting all this money and investing all this money in training a person if they're going to continue on this track of leaving after a year or two.
Right, okay. Now let's get into the points you make in your article. The first is define yourself in a summary statement. What do you mean by that?
Well, you could use a summary statement at the beginning of your resume to guide the reader through it and help them interpret your job changes. So you can start with outlining the collective numbers of years you have in the industry instead of listing, the amount of years of each different job. So it gives it a cohesive feel. Mm-hmm. You could say I have 8+ years in marketing experience, even if those 8+ years were scattered throughout 4 jobs. That might help you out a little bit.
Okay.
And it just helps you guide the reader through the resume and interpret how you moved around throughout the years.
Okay, great. Now your second point says include a summary of previous employment. What do you mean by that?
So instead of having bullet points that go all the way down the page listing each job, you could outline the most recent ones, maybe the 3 or 4 most recent positions,
okay.
Then create this section that's a summary of previous employment where you can just briefly list some of the other jobs and provide a start and end date for the collective section. Instead of putting individual dates next to each position, say, summary of previous employment 1995 to 2005.
Okay, excellent. Your third point is create coherence between hops. Talk about that.
If you've moved around in different industries, you want to give the resume a cohesive feel. So you want to point out similarities between each job so that the recruiter doesn't think you're jumping around looking for work. It looks like you're building on skills that you already have and learning in one job and building on it in the next.
Excellent. Okay, what about indicate involuntary hops? What's that about?
Well, not all job hops are really viewed negatively. If your position changed as a result of a merger or acquisition, or you're a contract worker, you want to explain that on your resume because these situations are really out of your control. So things like downsizing, mergers, acquisitions, contract work, or if a company changes names, you want to indicate that on the resume so it shows that you're stable. Maybe the industry wasn't.
Okay. Your fifth point, use dates to your advantage.
Right. So if you're a job hopper, you want to remove the months of your starting and ending dates. So instead of putting, December 2005 to February 2006, which indicates that you've only worked there for a few months, if you put 2005 to 2006 next to a position, recruiter might think you're there, almost 2 years. So that's a good way to disguise some of your short stints.
Okay. And your last point is use a hybrid resume. What do you mean by that?
So most people use chronological resumes where you list your most recent job back to your first job. So for a job hopper, that might not be the best format. Hybrid resume combines the chronological resume and the functional resume.
Functional. Mm-hmm.
So for the functional resume, you're really listing your jobs by different functional skills you have. So some of those examples could be organizational skills, or that you have management skills. So instead of separating the resume by different positions you had and different dates, you're going to separate it by functions.
Right.
Disguise some of these job hops.
Highlight your skills, in other words, and make that the
skills are the focal point.
Right.
Years.
Okay, excellent. Well, the article is called Tips for Creating a Resume That Downplays Job Hopping. You published it, a week or two ago?
A few days ago, actually.
2 days ago, okay. And again, you go on to CareerJournal.com. You can read that article by Dana. Dana, we're out of time, but thanks for joining us.
Thanks so much.
Appreciate the advice. And again, stay tuned to secretsofthejobhunt.com for more interesting career podcasts. And be sure to read my blog with more than 500 pages of cool career content. Thanks for listening, everyone.